Hello, Pre-Calc. So this is hopefully to help you with doing a retake if that's what you have chosen to do. So this first problem, since you have a unit circle, I like to convert it to degrees. So this would be negative 300 degrees because pi over 3 is 60. 60 times 5 is 300. That's a negative, which means you would be going clockwise. That's equivalent to 4, 60 degrees. So we count out 1, 2, 3, 4 at 60 degrees, and your point would be there. Then over here, so we have negative 6. This would be 30 times 5, which is 150. And 150 would be right here. 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right on the outer edge, but because it's negative, you go straight through to the other side. So that is equivalent to doing 6. If I add 180 to 150, you get 330. So that's how I would get that point. All right, now we want to rewrite this, but we first need to know what our radius is. So that coordinate says that this is 4 rad 3. So it's going to be one of your 30, 60, 90, or 45, 45 right triangles. So remember, this is x. Your hypotenuse would be 2x, and 60 degrees is opposite the rad 3. So my radius is 8. My theta is 60 degrees. So if I want to write it with a negative, remember the negative sends you 180 degrees to the other side. Same reference angle, but 60 plus 180 would put me at 240 degrees. So to write this with a negative radius, negative 8, 240 degrees, because you would be subtracting 180 to get it to where it is in the diagram. If I want both of them to be negative, so it's still a negative 8, but now what I'm showing is you're getting to that same place coming clockwise, and that would be 360 minus 240, which is 120 degrees. All right, so that would put you at the same place, and then the negative 8 sends you straight back. All right, for these next ones, I strongly recommend you graph them. You do have your unit circle, so that kind of helps. We want our equations to be r comma theta when we're done. So we want to figure out our radius. We want to figure out our theta. So if I graph this, you're going to have a right triangle. This is negative 8 rad 3, and this is a negative 8. So again, it's a 30, 60, 90. So you have your x rad 3. That means my 2x is going to be a positive 16. So my radius will be 16. My reference angle here is 30 because it's opposite the x. So we have 180 plus 30, which gives me 210 degrees. So this will be 16, 210. And then negative 60 is come back here. That's the point, negative 60. So the radius, which is a positive distance, is 6. And you can see that the degrees to get there is 180 degrees. Now we're going to do polar to rectangular. So remember, the way this works is you have r cosine theta will give me my x value. R sine theta is going to give me the y value. So here, and again, it's in radians, but you have your unit circle. So negative pi over 4 actually turns out to be the same thing as 45 degrees. So we have 6 cosine 45, 6 sine 45, and you have to actually evaluate that. So 45 degrees is going to give me 6 times rad 2 over 2, and they're both going to be the same since it's in the first quadrant. So this will be 3 rad 2, 3 rad 2 is how we get that. Negative 5 pi, so if I go back So if I go to pi, which is equivalent to 180, but the -5 sends me back in the other direction. So this is equivalent to right here, which is going to be a radius of 5. Oh, but at 0 degrees, sorry, I got a little confused there. I was looking at something else. So we're writing this in our rectangular. If you're not sure, I guess I can just plug it in. -5 cosine pi, -5 sine pi. So remember that cosine of pi is -1, so that's 5, and then -5 sine pi is 0, which is what that coordinate is. Now, the converting, a lot of you guys kind of struggled with this. So this first one, you want to kind of include the strategy on your note card. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the tangent of both sides. So tangent -pi/3. Tangent of theta converts to y/x because that's opposite over adjacent. On your unit circle, tangent of -60 degrees, if you make a ratio of the y over the x coordinate, or you can draw a triangle. So -60 degrees is down here, so this would be a -rad3, this would be 1, opposite over adjacent is just going to be -rad3, and then we write the equation by multiplying the other side, oops, not that, by x. So let me undo that. X, go away. So this should be -rad3 times x. Then r equals 4 sine theta is a circle off of the y-axis that passes through the origin. So strategy is you're going to multiply both sides by r. So on one side I have r squared, the other side I have 4r sine theta. So now we can start to convert. This is x squared plus y squared equals 4y, because that's what r sine theta equals. That is not standard form yet. We have to complete the square. So we're going to bring everything over to one side. Y squared minus 4y plus blank equals 0 plus blank. So 4 is going to go there. Now I can factor. So I have x squared plus y minus 2 squared. So that's factoring as a result of our completing the square equals 4. And you can leave it like that because it's the equation of a circle. Okay, so on this last page, you want to make sure that you have on your notes z1 times z2. So you do to your r's what you did to the z's, and then you add your thetas. So this is going to be 3 times 9 cis 128 plus 32, which gives me cis 160. When you're dividing, again, you do to your r's what you did to your z's, but now we're going to subtract our thetas. So this will be 3 divided by 9 cis 128 minus 32, which is going to give me, 3 divided by 9 is 1/3. So that's going to be 1/3 cis 96. And in this problem down here, now we changed it to make it a little easier. I gave you 6 cosine theta and R2 equals 3. So if I'm graphing this one, it's just a radius of 3 that goes around the pole, and that stays constant. 6 cosine theta is going to come off of the positive x-axis with a diameter of 6, and it does pass through the pole, and it's just a circle. So it looks like we have 2 intersection points. So if I'm going to graph it on a rectangular coordinate system, we're going to label this 2, 4, 6, -2, -4, -6. So r equals 3, which we now are going to graph as if it's y equals 3, is just a horizontal line. And then 6, remember cosine starts high, sinusoidal goes low, sinusoidal ends high. So there's what the graph would be, and again we can see there's going to be 2 intersection points, so let's find those. So we set the 2 equations equal to each other. So cosine theta equals 1/2. If you look at your unit circle, the x coordinates, you'll see theta equals will be 60 degrees and 300 degrees. Reference angle. Okay, so then we want to write that. Now I already told you what the radius is, so 360 and 300, which should match up with where your intersections are. Should be about, well, it's definitely at 3, at 60 and 300. Okay, now number 24, a lot of you guys just totally skipped this, and it's just algebra, all right? So I know what type of equation it is because 2 minus 3 is a negative, so that tells me it's going to be a hyperbola. If you get a negative, it's a hyperbola. You get a positive, it's an ellipse. If you get a 0, it'll be a parabola. First thing we're going to do is just cross multiply. So this is r over 1. So 2r plus 3r cosine theta equals 5. All right, so now I like to isolate my 2r, that lead term. So this is negative 3r cosine theta plus 5. And now we will convert into rectangular. So 2 times the square root, x squared plus y squared, equals negative 3x plus 5. So now everything has been converted into rectangular, but we need to put it into standard form. So I'm going to square both sides. And that's going to give me, I'm going to already do the distribution. So 4x squared plus 4y squared. And then we have to FOIL this. Remember, you can't just distribute an exponent across addition or subtraction. So this will give me 9x squared minus 30x. That's your outer and your inner together, plus 25. All right, you've done the hardest part. Now we're just going to rearrange some terms. I'm going to bring everything over but my constant. So 4x squared minus 9x squared is a negative 5x squared. I'm going to bring over my 30x. Then I have my 4y squared equals 25. Leave that on the other side. So we have to complete the square on the x terms. And that means I have to factor out my negative 5, because you can't complete the square with a coefficient other than 1. So this becomes x squared minus 6x, because we factored out a negative, plus blank, plus 4y squared equals 25, minus 5 times blank. So what goes in that blank is going to be a 9, half the middle term squared. And we're now ready to just factor this. So this is x minus 3 squared plus 4y squared equals 25 minus 45 is a negative 20. And so we're going to divide everyone by negative 20, so we set it all equal to 1. So x minus 3 squared over a positive 4 minus y squared over 5 equals 1. And that is a hyperbola. All right, last 2 problems. So we notice that my sides are at 4, and we know it's a sine because it's coming off of the positive y-axis. So a is 4, and we want to know 4 plus what will give me 7, because remember this represents a plus b. So 4 plus 3 sine theta, and it makes sense because 4 minus 3 is a positive 1. Over here, because my rose petal is coming off of the positive x-axis, I know this is a cosine. My diameter is at 5, and I have 12 rose petals, so this will be 6, because remember, when it's an even number, you double the number of petals. All right, so I hope that helps.